and Nick's in Brentwood. Nick, what would you like to say?
Good morning. I'm not chilled by it at all, because if he was holding up a blank piece of paper and the police officer said, if you write, this is not my king, or you're not my king, how did he know that was going to be written on that piece of paper? This guy, the barrister, must have goaded that police officer into saying, this is what I'm going to say, this is what I'm going to write.
Why is it goading?
Well, what did he say how did the police officer know what he was going to write then?
Well, he would have told him, but I don't understand why goad is the
He
word.
told him.
Yes.
No, so he said to the police officer,
What happens if I write?
this
What
and hold
happens
it
if
up?
I write "not my king" on this piece of paper? Because I've seen other people in Britain being arrested for doing that. That's what he would have said. Words to that effect.
Well, we don't know what he did say.
Well, we kind of do, because he's provided a fairly comprehensive account, and you can hear the aftermath of when he said other
Yeah,
people
so
have
the police
been. Well, hang on,
so
mate. If you're not across the facts, then let me help you out. Other people have been arrested for writing "not my king" on a piece of paper. What would happen to me if I did so here, officer?
He'd be arrested, and rightly so.
For what?
The police.
For what,
The police
Nick?
have got a very difficult job to do. Policing.
All right, mate.
Is the most difficult job in the
Arrested
world.
for what?
Listen.
No.
let me
Arrested
speak.
for
No,
what?
let me finish.
No, of course I won't let you
Arrested for
finish. You're just going off on a pre-prepared
potentially causing-
nonsense.
For potentially causing unrest.
Right. What's the unrest?
The police are trying to keep the situation calm.
So what if someone
and that's
held
what
up a
they were
sign
doing.
saying
They were
"long"?
doing their job.
If someone held up a
They were
sign
doing their
saying,
job.
Nick, mate, are you ready?
Yep.
Yeah. What if someone held up a sign saying "Long live the King" at a gathering where there were known to be a lot of Republicans? Would that be an arrestable offence?
No, that wouldn't cause trouble at all.
Well, it would, because all of these people are Republicans.
What about...
No.
about,
You have to answer my question, Nick. Should he be arrested because he could offend a lot of people in that crowd?
No, he shouldn't.
Why
No,
not? Because
we've
there's a
got to
lot of
use our
offended
common
people
sense
there,
here.
Nick.
No, we've got to use our common sense.
Right, so
And
you arrest
we've got
someone for...
to-
Hang on, I need to be clear on where your common sense has led you. So here's a group of
Yeah.
people who are offended by a sign, and that person holding that sign should be offended. And here's another group of people who may be offended by a sign, but the person holding that sign shouldn't be offended. Just talk me through that brand of common
So
sense.
that group of people who are anti-royalist, and if he was going to hold up a sign saying "Long live the King,"
Yes.
they should let them be pushed aside. Anti-royalists, they're
No,
protected.
but no, you can't push them aside because they're offended.
Let's
We're
be honest.
arresting people
We've got to look
for
at the
causing offence,
circumstances.
Nick. We're arresting
We've got to
people
look
for
at-
causing offence. You can't have
Listen,
different laws
James,
for different signs.
No, this is very exceptional circumstances.
Okay, it's not,
If the
because I've got
Queen
another
said-
story you might like. Tell me how you feel
Queen
about
said-
this one.
No, let's
Russian
stick with this story.
Russian
No, let's
police.
stick with this story.
Well, we can stick with this story if you want, but it's not. You're not
Yeah,
really.
let's stick with this one for a minute, because that's what we're talking about.
Okay, then. So,
There's very exceptional circumstances.
well, it's not
If
because
the
it happened
Queen
3
said-
times yesterday. So it's not exceptional.
The Queen didn't die 3 times. That's
No,
what I'm saying.
no, we're talking
It's
about people holding up a
exceptional
sign saying "Not my king."
Yeah, let them be taken away.
But
Let
the
them be
person, but the
arrested.
person causing offence with a different sign shouldn't be taken away.
What do you think is going to happen to those people? Nothing.
Well, what do you
They'll
think is going to
take them
happen?
away,
What do you
send
think
them
is going to happen to
somewhere
this
else and let
guy?
them Walk on their way.
What do you think is going to
The
happen to
police-
this guy?
Which guy?
The guy who got arrested.
What, the barrister?
Well, the guy who would have been arrested if he'd written "not." We can't talk about the people
The
who were
guy
actually
would
arrested.
Have been arrested. So he
Yes.
didn't get arrested. He didn't get arrested, did he?
No, we know that he didn't get arrested because he didn't write on the piece of paper. He said, "I've got work tomorrow and I can't afford to take the time off."
Exactly. But he was going to
What do you mean exactly?
You're going to do.
What-
No, you. But
Go on,
we've
Nick.
got a police force.
Yes.
We've got a police force, and we don't allow them to police. And you're aiding that.
We
You're
don't allow
lifting
them
up
to
a
police
storm.
a man.
No.
So hang on, Nick.
No, we don't, because you're on the radio saying they did wrong.
No.
And you're broadcasting this across the nation.
But they
that
did.
Those police
you-
are wrong.
Are you? Don't take this question the wrong way.
You're whipping
No.
up the trouble.
No,
Not
yeah.
the guy holding the piece of paper. You are.
No, you
You're
are.
causing more trouble.
No, yes.
You are
No,
causing
you
more
are.
trouble
You
than that
are.
guy
You
with
want
the
people
piece
to
of
be
paper.
arrested for what? Carrying a little sign around. You want people to be arrested for the possession of paper.
I'd arrest you. If I was the police, I'd be arresting you for whipping up trouble,
And
causing
that-
trouble in the nation.
and that makes
That's
you a
all
fascist.
I've got to say to you.
Where
That's
do you-
all I've got to say to
Where
you.
do you stand on freedom of speech, Nick?
No, there should be a few more rules, because it's all leading the wrong way. Everything is.
What should people
We've
be?
got to allow our police.
What
we
should
have
people
to
be
allow our
allowed to
people
say? What should
police.
people who don't believe in a monarchy be allowed to say about it in public?
Not much.
Well, tell me where the parameters
Because
would be
we're in a
under
country-
your glorious
we're in a
rule.
country of a royal family.
Under
So
your
you could
glorious
live with
rule,
that.
Nick, under your glorious rule,
Yeah.
someone who doesn't believe in monarchies, who doesn't think that because somebody's ancestor won a war or stole a bunch of money and ended up on a throne, we shouldn't be doing that in the
Oh, look at
21st century.
Oh, that's how the monarchy got there, was it? They stole a bunch of money.
Well, if you go back to 1066, mate, they killed the King of England and took his throne. Do you want a history lesson, Nick, or do you want to have a conversation about what you should and shouldn't be allowed to say about the monarchy?
God, no, I agree. You should be allowed freedom of speech.
But-
Let's get this in perspective. For
I
God's
have,
sake.
Nick. I've got it in perfect perspective.
I don't
What should
think
they,
you have. You've got
under
it out
your
of
freedom of
perspective.
speech, under
No,
your...
You're whipping it all up into a storm.
No, you are.
The police were just trying to keep the peace.
No,
That's all they were doing.
what should you be allowed to say?
They threatened the man. They said,
What
"If
should
you're
you...
gonna
I'm going
do
to
that
ask
and
you
start
again. I'm going to be
someone,
late
we're
for the
gonna have to
news.
arrest
I
you."
don't want to be late for the news. Keith gets
No,
upset.
don't be late for the news.
What should you
We
be...
wanna get that accurate
What
information,
should...
don't we?
If not my king is an arrestable offence, what would be an acceptable comment on a piece of paper?
It's not about what was written on the paper.
It's entirely
not
about what was
that.
going to be
No,
written
it's
on the
not.
paper,
No,
Nick.
it's
So you have
not.
to answer the question, what should he have
It's
been
not.
allowed to write? How would a
It's
permissible...
not what was about what's written on the paper.
It is, Nick.
was
You can't...
about
It
the
doesn't matter how many
disruption
times you
that
say
was
things. It
caused,
never
and the
becomes
police were
true.
just doing their job.
Yeah,
The
so
police
what
were
would...
just doing their job.
What would you be allowed to write on the piece of paper?
Long live the king.
But that's going to offend people.
People, no, but to my mind, it's the Queen's death.
Yes.
Nobody should be holding up bits of paper saying anything. They should
Oh,
be
okay.
there mourning politely.
So we're
and
going to ban
respectfully.
paper.
Polite. Oh, don't be stupid.
You just
Don't
said
be
nobody should
stupid.
holding
Come
up...
on, you're above this.
No,
Don't
above
you're
what,
above
Nick?
this
You're
kind of
talking
argument.
absolute gibberish, man. You need to
So
either
are
answer...
you.
You just called for a ban on paper.
People go and get away with it.
Love to the family,
You
Nick.
talk gibberish every day on the radio and get away with it.
Love to the family, Nick.
Yeah, and you.
It's 11:31. Holly Harris is here with the headlines.